Hook, sit with me for a minute. Picture this, a sleepy plane, early afternoon, and a kid in a worn college hoodie settles into a seat she bought herself headphones in mind on an interview next week. Then a woman in pearls leans over and says, "This seat isn't for people like you." You feel that, yeah, that happened, and in less than an hour, a phone call would turn a routine flight into something that changed policy careers and a lot of people's ideas about justice. Act 1. The setup. My name in this telling is Mara Ellis. She's 17, not rich, stubborn in the way only someone who's worked for everything can be, and she's on her way to a campus visit that could change her life. She wears a state college sweatshirt, scuffed sneakers, and carries a backpack with interview notes folded inside. She paid for the ticket herself, clocking shifts at a small tech startup. That detail matters, because none of the people about to form opinions about her know that. The cabin is calm. The soft lighting, the polite smiles, the hum of the engines. A place designed to make people feel like the world owes them nothing and gives them everything. Then enters Evelyn Price hair-lacquered handbag that cost more than a month's rent for most folks' voice like warmed honey until she chooses to sharpen it. She plants herself in the aisle and says loud enough for the whole first section to hear, "Excuse me, young lady. This section isn't for your kind." The words land like a stone. You can feel the shift in the air. Some people glance up. Some try to pretend they didn't hear. One older man folds his newspaper slowly like he knows where this is headed. The flight attendant, a guy named Ryan Hale, arrives with that employee smile that strains when trouble comes. He asks politely for a boarding pass, and Mara shows him the ticket on her phone. Seat 1B paid 2 weeks earlier. The pass is clean. The math is simple. But Evelyn is louder, and she has a voice that carries to the kind of manager who once left her a big tip. "Girls like this don't just end up in first class," Evelyn says, meaning it as both insult and proof that someone is out of line. It's a line you hear when someone thinks social order is written in cufflinks and designer shoes not in receipts and choices. Mara keeps her calm the way she learned from being the kid who wasn't supposed to be first at anything. Slow, steady breath, eyes on the ticket, voice low but clear. "This is my seat. I bought this ticket." Act 2. The escalation. Instead of the crew doing the obvious, scanning overhead bins, checking around, asking the woman where she last saw the bracelet she claims is missing, Ryan opts for caution. He suggests a private conversation, a harmless-sounding step that reads to everyone in the cabin like taking the easy route. Evelyn pushes harder, and the word security gets a drop it like someone lit a fuse. Now imagine a uniform walking down the aisle, not because the situation is checked out, but because a wealthy passenger says so. Officer Miguel Reyes steps on board, confident, efficient, carrying the kind of presence that makes people assume authority equals correctness. He speaks to Mara with the practiced edge of someone used to compliance. "Ma'am, unbuckle and come with me." Mara asks a straight question. "Am I under arrest? What evidence is there?" The script unravels because there is no evidence, only an accusation, the single loud voice of Evelyn, and assumptions in the room. Every seat becomes a camera. A passenger, a contractor named Luis, starts recording. A physician, Dr. Kim, watches hands folding and unfolding like she's measuring the moment. The flight morphs from a transit into a courtroom of strangers. Mara's father, far away at his desk, gets the call. That one call that will flip the scene. He isn't a vigilante. He's a man with resources and a sense of how leverage works. He says 2 things first, tell me everything, and second, put whoever is in charge on the line. That phone call is the pivot, a single connection that amplifies accountability. The father is a logistics executive, yes, but what matters is not wealth alone. It's what he does with the power when his daughter faces a wrong. He asks the officer simple surgical questions. Did you verify the boarding pass? Did you examine a crime scene? Did you treat the allegation as an accusation or as a supposition? The officer, surprised to be questioned instead of obeyed, stumbles. Live streams multiply. The cabin's quiet witness becomes a global audience. Meanwhile, small details start to matter. A woman in row 3 raises her hand. She saw a bracelet fall by an older man's foot earlier. Another passenger pulls footage from his phone. The missing evidence narrative crumbles when the bracelet is found, under a seat where it probably fell and no one looked. Ryan, trying to save face, reaches down and retrieves it, the thing glittering like a bad truth. The harsh reality, no theft, just prejudice and a chain of choices that put a teenager in the dock without a trial. Act 3. Resolution and Aftershock. What happens next isn't tidy revenge, it's messy institutional public. Officer Reyes faces suspension as supervisors and cameras converge. The flight attendant loses his job, not because he was malicious, but because he chose the easier route over the right one. Evelyn, who made the accusation, ends up facing legal fallout for false reporting. The airline. It gets hit where it counts public trust contracts' stock price. The father, clear-eyed and methodical, threatens business consequences until the airline's CEO is on the line offering apologies and promises. But the real victory isn't corporate apologies or firings, it's a policy shift. The airline institutes what they call the MARA Protocol, Mandatory De-Escalation Training Verification. First procedures, independent reviews of discrimination complaints. Other carriers follow quickly because reputational risk is contagious and expensive. Mara herself doesn't relish the spotlight. She still wants what she wanted at the start, to go to that campus visit to be judged by work and not by the size of her backpack. But she also recognizes the power of documented witness. Her quiet composure and the people who recorded what happened turned personal harm into public accountability. There's a satisfying beat. Mara gets her interview via video from a lounge and later receives an offer with assistance. But the narrative isn't about personal gain. It's about a shift in culture where passengers of color start reporting discrimination with the knowledge that systems will respond. The ripple effects go beyond aviation. Police departments revise procedures, corporations revise training, and ordinary people get reminded, loudly, that documentation matters. The end. But the debate continues. And because nothing is ever that simple, the story leaves open questions that people argue about for months. Some say the father weaponized influence, that corporations bending to pressure sets a dangerous precedent. Others say that is exactly the point. Accountability only bites when it risks something. There are debates about whether live-streamed justice is fair, whether careers can or should be ruined by a single viral moment, and whether policy changes made under duress last. Mara's line through all of this is simple and stays with you. I didn't want to be anyone's cause célèbre. I wanted a seat and a chance. She wasn't looking for spectacle. She just wanted what so many of us want: dignity. Her story asks us to consider what we do when we see something wrong. Do we look away, or do we bear witness? And if we have power, do we use it to fix things or to score points? So here's where you come in, not as a bystander, but as a participant. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what would you have done in that seat? Do you think the outcome was justice or spectacle? Should influence be used to correct wrongs, or does that create new problems of fairness? Have you ever seen something like this, on a bus, at a store, on a plane, and held your tongue? Speak up. Share your story. If this moved you, hit like, subscribe. If you want more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because real change doesn't come from a headline. It comes from conversations, from witnesses, and from people who choose to act when simple dignity is denied.